Hey y'all, I never know how to start these things. And I don't ever want it to come across as prepackaged or cheesy. So I just wanted to dive in to this video and start from here. I never want these things to be prepackaged looking or sounding. And these videos are quite an act of obedience for me to step out and do something that's uncomfortable. But it's also an exercise, and which God is pushing me to practice embracing my imperfection by not having it all prepared and prepackaged. So here we are. And in this video, I want to share with you one thing that us perfectionists are great at, but it's the one thing that keeps us held down to a life of perfectionism. But God gives us a way out. And so we're going to cover those things today. What is the one thing that all perfectionists are good at? And it's the cover up. We are so good at stuffing down, at covering up those things that we perceive as imperfect. It might be a body part that we hate. I've got a couple, and we are so good about covering those up or obsessing about the imperfection of them. To what standard is what I ask myself? What standard is a perfection that I'm comparing this or that I don't like about myself? It's silly. It's silly, I tell you, silly. Or it could be our laugh. I mean, that's a crazy thing. One time I was talking to a friend and I heard my laugh outside my head. And I thought that is the most ridiculous laugh I have ever heard. I had to go back and see if it was out of an insecure place that I was laughing that weird or whether I just have a weird laugh. And so I had to embrace that weird thing. It could be an emotion that we know that we shouldn't feel. And so instead of dealing with it, we cover it up. It could be jealousy, insecurity, anger, bitterness. We cannot cover up those things and still move forward in freedom. But God tells us how. God tells us what to do with all those things of imperfection. And it's found in Psalm 32. And what he tells us to do, I'll tell you, and then we'll read the verse, is to acknowledge it. There is such power in acknowledgement. It didn't make sense to me at first because I thought I had to do something in order to grow beyond it. But the power of acknowledgement opens the door for God to come in and do his work. So here's the verses. There's 3 verses that I was talking about in Psalm 32, verses 3 through 5. And David tells us the effects of what the cover-up does to us, and then how he doesn't cover up and how he acknowledges things before the Lord and what the Lord does for him. So Psalm 32:3, when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Those are so many pictures and feelings that I can relate to. My bones wasted away. I was groaning all day long. Your hand felt heavy on me, and my strength was zapped. I have felt all those things when I have tried to live the life of perfection. But then David turns the table in verse 5 and says, then I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover up my iniquity. Yeah, the words are right there, cover up, right there. He did not cover up his iniquity, his sin, his imperfection. He said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. And the sweetness of Jesus, he forgave the guilt of my sin. Not just my sin, but the effects of my sin. Acknowledgement is powerful. So instead of covering up, which we think is the very thing that will lead us to the path of perfection and security and worth and value, is not. When we stop and acknowledge the fact that we are jealous, that we don't have the perfect body part in this place or that our laugh is kind of silly sounding. If we acknowledge it instead of just trying to cover up, push it down, and pretty it up, we can be free. And I don't understand it. I thought I had to do more to be free of perfection. But the first step is in acknowledging the imperfection that we so want to cover up. So what is it that you're covering up today? Is it all those different things that I talked about were you able to connect with? Or are there some other really hardcore things? Friends, the more we cover up things, the more we will feel trapped by them. There is power in acknowledgement. Acknowledge, confess to the Lord all those things that you see in yourself that you need Him help with.